All right, welcome in everyone. American and Leeds, the American and Leeds podcast. Hope you're all doing fantastic. And today it's Ger. I got him, everyone. He's the man. I say he's the man, the myth, the legend. But anyways, biggest. If you don't know Leeds United the View, I don't know where you are, what planet you're on, but Leeds United the View is daily news. And Ger is the reason why I think Ger is so valuable in our community is he offers tactical analysis, daily news, transfer rumors, everything you could ever want. So go ahead and smash the like. We'll say 100 likes for this video. And it's the international break. So we're going to take it a little bit slow, talk about some stuff, and then maybe get into the season so far. Ger, how are you?
I'm good, mate. Thanks for having me back on. It's been a while, but I always enjoy these. So yeah, great to be back on, mate. Thanks very much.
Been
I'm
a minute.
all good here. Has
You're
been
gonna
a
see
minute.
these. You're gonna see these guys later too.
I've already seen them
Oh, you
before.
already.
Yeah.
So
Doing the rounds.
working hard, doing the rounds. So look, you're a number. You were a former number 9. I said I emailed your Yahoo, your personal email, and Ger Lynch, number 9.
Yeah.
Leading the line for your clubs. What do you think of the number 9 so far at Leeds United this season? I've been relatively comfortable with where they're at because I just feel like sometimes in the games that they haven't been really, I don't know, involved, it really hasn't been their fault. The ball hasn't really gotten to them, but I don't know. I felt comfortable with the number 9 this season, Ger. But how would you evaluate the number 9 position at Leeds United this season?
I think the number 9 position with Leeds, to kind of a fair approach to it, is a more complicated question probably than it seems. I think the question that is out there is Joseph or Piru, and I genuinely believe it's the wrong question that we're asking. I think it's who are we playing, what's the style, and what's the profile needed. Because if you look at the Leeds, the 3 Leeds number 9s, excluding Gelhardt from this for a minute, but if you look at Piru, Bamford, and Joseph, they all offer very different things. They're in their own different ways. They're all very different types and different styles of number 9s. You've got Mateo Joseph does the hold up play very well. He's got the youthful speed to be able to get in behind, but he has the downsides of a young player as well. A little bit inconsistent at times, can be a rush of blood to the head at moments, but does a lot of the donkey work or the dirty work the players don't like doing. He does it really, really well. And you deserve a huge amount of credit for doing that amount of work because it is unselfish. There was a term that used to be used when I played up front on my own called plowing a lone furrow. And it was basically meaning it's a selfless task as a lone number 9 because your job is to run around mostly and be a nuisance. And if you can score, great. But as the sole number 9, not the most important thing is to find the back of the net. It's, can you link the play? Can you bring other players into the game? Can you create space for players to run into? So, for example, when our midfield pick up the ball, Mateo Joseph always comes short. At least one centre back will come with him. That creates a space in behind for one of the wingers to run into that gap in behind for balls to be played in. So he does that stuff really, really well. Then you've got Joel Piru, who does none of that stuff well. His first touch when he's got his back to goal is usually up in the air. Is, again, the old saying of your first touch is bad, your second's a tackle. That's where Joel Piru tends to find. But if you can turn him around and have him facing the goal, he's the most lethal finisher in the division and will score goals when he gets those chances. And then you've Pat Bamford, who can do a little bit of both, but has a little bit of both of the downsides as well. Like, Paddy does press very well. He will cover ground, but he's injury prone. He's never really available. And when he does come on, he does make an impact. But he's streaky. And we saw last year when he played 8 games that he was excellent for Leeds during that block of games that he played after Christmas last year. And probably one of the main, if you look at the game stats, Leeds' best run came when Bamford was in the side last year. So we clearly, whether we like him or not, or people think he should be in the team or not, when he is available, it clearly works a bit better with this system. So that's kind of the profiles is the first thing. Then the second thing is, well, what's the opposition? If you're playing against a low block, do you start Joel Piru or do you start Mateo Joseph? And for me, if it's a low block, you need to create space. And those situations, for me, I would start Mateo Joseph. And then you've got games that are more open. I'd start Joel Piru because Leeds are more likely to be able to get in around the back and cross balls into areas where he can go in and do what he does really well. So I think Daniel Farke is blessed right now having 2 good number 9s that are very different profiles, and Paddy as a backup should that ever be needed or whenever he's available. but I don't think he's sure when he should play them. And I think that's where the inconsistency is coming right now, where you've got Joseph running around an awful lot, doing the pressing, doing the tougher work, tiring out a back line, and comes off the park with no goal to his name. And Joel Piroe comes on, capitalizes on the extra space, capitalizes on the stretching of the game and the tired defenders, and he scores. So it depends on an awful lot, but I think both of them are fine. But I don't think either fully fit Daniel Farke's ideal style of football. I think he's lacking a number 9 that plays exactly the way he would like to. Like he had Pookie at Norwich. I don't think he has that here. I don't think he's been able to find it. But I do think he thought it was going to be Joel Piroe, and it hasn't been. But I still think Piroe is a very good season this year. But it's not really an answer to your question, Alex. But I think it's not a yes or no or one or the other answer. I think it's very much horses for courses. But I think both of them have enough attributes to warrant being played.
Martin says, I discovered you both at the same time and enjoyed your, I believe you meant mediocre intelligence ever since. Yes, we're both. Ger was lucky. Ger was, I can't remember. I saw you on Twitter. I was like, he's a Leeds YouTuber. You were a small channel at the time. And I was like, ooh, UEFA coach. He knows a little bit. And you were not one to kind of be ripping the Americans as much. So I was like, I'm going to reach out to him. So I appreciate.
Depends what channel you watch, Alex. Some people think I've got an anti-American agenda, which is
no, I don't think so. I don't think so.
I've got family American. So
and you sense. and as I, obviously you've done business in the States, you had to deal with a lot with the international software giant, and I think obviously had to deal with people around the world. So, but let's talk about what I'm just curious, Ger, as a former player, what kind of center backs bothered you? Like what kind of what you were probably a big physical number 9, right? You said you scored a lot of your goals from headers.
Yeah, a lot of more headers, yeah. But I'm 6'4", so. But I wasn't always big. I was a skinny 6'4" for a long time. The back end of my career, I filled out a bit. I discovered the gym. I hated defenders that wanted to be close to me all the time. I enjoyed winding centre backs and players up. Now, my teammates didn't always enjoy me doing it because I'd regularly be told to shut up on the pitch. But I like talking in the ear of a defender and just distracting them. So I would spend an awful lot of the game commenting on stuff that was nothing to do with football or trying to distract them and just generally wind them up so they stopped concentrating so I could capitalize on it. But then the flip side, I didn't like the ones that would be right up against me and be pushing me all the time and dragging out of me and nudging me. And like the more physical defenders annoyed me more and distracted me from what my game was, which was usually trying to run across the line and get in behind. I was pretty fast. So it was balls around the top. That's where I preferred the ball. But I scored a lot from corners and crosses as well with my head. But more physical defenders that didn't want to give me space and wanted to basically dedicate the 90 minutes to just being stuck to me, that they could take me out of the game completely.
Ger Lynch in the air. I don't know.
Yeah.
Air Jordan.
Yeah.
Ger Lynch. I want to talk a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about the Fanatics deal that came across this week. Fanatics is, I think of Fanatics as kind of like the Amazon in the United States, but for just sports gear.
Yeah.
They're a distribution hub. They basically now in the United States, if you go to any MLB, Major League Baseball, National Basketball Association, NFL website, store, when you go to the store, you'll start to, and eventually you'll be into, the 49ers, and it'll say a Fanatics experience. And you're basically on a Fanatics website that has 49ers or whatever the team is gear. And it does all the conversions and all that stuff for you. And then, it's a basic, simple checkout from there.
Yep.
The downside, I think there's been some bad press as well on Fanatics because they're huge. They're a massive global brand. They also do manufacturing. They also they negotiate the rights to these teams, to these logos, and produce some stuff that's a little bit I guess more, how to say this, on the affordable side. It's not at the highest quality. And so they got a big deal done here in the States with Major League Baseball, and the uniforms were produced, and they were very cheap. They were Nike logo, but they were, I think, essentially Fanatics produced. And there was a big controversy because the actual physical team's jerseys were ripping, things were happening, but I think they ultimately corrected it. Here's why I'm excited, being an international fan, Ger, you as well. We've had to order our stuff, and it takes like
so long.
Like 2 months or so. I think we ordered our yellow kits, in August. I remember talking to you over the summer, and we were joking that we'd get them by Christmas.
Yeah.
We got them a little quicker than that,
A little quicker,
but just the fact that the distribution centers that I think Fanatics has, and no team in the EFL, hopefully will be a Premier League side at this time, but no team in the EFL certainly has a deal like this. So I think it's huge. But what did you hear about the Fanatics deal, and any kind of details you can share with that?
Sure. At a Premier League sides that have the Fanatics deal, because I think this is one of the first ones that we've seen so far from Fanatics starting to encroach a little bit.
Well, I'll share my screen here. I actually checked.
The US owned ones weren't very much involved with them, because it makes sense.
So I checked I went to like some of the Manchester United shop and things like that. It doesn't say Fanatics Experience, but if you go to fanatics.com, you can kind of see,
they're there,
like what they've got.
That'll be the interesting thing, whether Leeds adopt the Fanatics Experience, because the wording is very interesting in this deal, which I think might be more similar to the US model than necessarily what's happening currently in the UK.
Right. So here's my screen, and this is fanatics.com here in the United States. So it's recognizing obviously that I'm in the United States, and you can go to soccer, and you're basically looking at the MLS teams, some of the national teams, international clubs. And so if you go to international clubs and hit Premier League, it's got, I counted here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's view all. It's got all but 2 Premier League sides here.
Yeah.
But now when I click here, like if I click on a lower level Premier League side, let's say Ipswich, all they have available for Ipswich is the
home and away shirt.
Right, home and away shirt. But if I click on Manchester United, it's got it's got a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
So,
but again, the Glazer ownership is obviously a part of that as well, the American side of the business. So it makes sense. Yeah.
And I guarantee you, Ipswich does not have a Fanatics deal. They just decided to carry their home and away shirt.
Third party reseller, essentially.
Right. And so exactly. And if I go to, I can't remember, I was going to like Everton. Everton has they got some stuff, but this is right here. I can look at this.
Yeah.
This is something that, you would get, which is, might be some of decent quality. I would wear something like this, simple.
Kind of generic fan merch. Really.
Right. Yeah. And in America, we love what's called a jersey. Let's see if they've got one of these. It's basically like a jersey looking thing, but it's a t-shirt. And it looks like they've got some of their older stuff too.
They do, yeah.
So anyways, all of this says, but I can get this shirt and I can get it here within a day or two, rather than it going through customs and all this stuff. And all this has to do with brand. That's why we're kind of talking about this branding and at the end of the day, revenue for the club to continue to grow. So I think this is huge, this deal. But yeah, what did you hear?
Yeah. So the wording on this is they said they will be the exclusive operator of the club's online store and official retail stores. So Fanatics essentially have bought the rights to run Leeds United's merchandise sales from a store perspective and from an online perspective. So based on what you've said there, I would imagine you're going to see a Fanatics Experience type thing, because it's Fanatics that are going to be basically the reseller for Leeds United. The Leeds aren't even going to be the primary reseller of their own products anymore. It'll be outsourced to Fanatics. But as you said, if you look at the reach that Fanatics has, I mean, even from like, we're a pretty big basketball house here. I've been an NBA fan. Jess played for Ireland, played basketball for Ireland, so she's a big NBA fan. And I bought her Hornets gear before because she sports the Hornets. And trying to buy stuff from the NBA store in America to get to Ireland was like, this is like $250 at this stage. This is way too expensive. Like, I can't. But now there's a Fanatics EU store in Europe, and I can get stuff for like half the price. Like, it's a ridiculously cheaper experience. Plus, I get it quicker as well. So, if you look at Leeds from a global brand perspective, you have the Adidas deal, which is huge for Leeds right now from a financial perspective. But then the Fanatics deal on top of that, and you look at it, go, well, you've got a global reaching brand in Adidas. You've got a shirt sponsor that's a globally recognized brand in Red Bull. You want the Leeds United crest or brand to become a globally recognized brand as well. So partnering those two, and then you add Fanatics to that, all of a sudden you've now got the names, the brand, and now you've got the reach to go and do that. And I think it's a very sensible, smart deal from Leeds. And also from a merchandise perspective, the Leeds store is pretty sparse on merch that you can buy. The fact that they've also, and it says it, have the rights to manufacture a wide variety of future, fanwear and accessories. So that basically says they'll do all the third-party stuff as well that we just shown you there. You've shown with the Everton gear. So, yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. I would imagine it's a substantial deal if they're signing over the rights to produce the stuff to them. Because Leeds are essentially taking their hands off the wheel and going, it's yours, and we'll oversee it, but it's yours. So I think it's really good. I think from a global perspective, especially when they get back to the Premier League, which this deal kicks in the summer of 25, which you'd hope Leeds is back in the Premier League at that stage. It could be huge for the club, definitely from a shirt sale perspective. And then add to that the data that came out from UEFA this week from the 22-23 season. Leeds were 17th in the world for shirt and merchandising sales. And that was as a championship club. It was last season as a championship club. So can you imagine then Leeds being back in the Premier League, being on TV around the world more often? Now there's access to get the stuff much easier and much cheaper. I think it's a really good deal for the club. I think Leeds are doing some very smart and sensible partnerships off the field, and everything off the field right now for me at Leeds seems to be going the right way to set the club to be a huge success and a little bit of a juggernaut. I think that's where the 49ers experience is really starting to show some fruits of its labor so far.
20 of you in the building, go ahead and smash the like. The like helps it populate to other Leeds United fans, YouTube people that are, consuming Leeds United content, etc. But yeah, smash the like. We're going to go for 100 likes. This is what it'll look like. So I'm on 49ers website, and then I'll hit over here on shop to get 49ers merchandise. And then takes me to their team store. Let's just say let's say I'll do this men's collection. Let's see here. And then you see here, obviously there's a promo code. This is a Fanatics experience. And now I'm in basically the Fanatics side of the shop. And again, I compare it to Amazon, but for gear. Just distribution wise, it's massive. And I think you want, as a person that loves the club, you want the gear in more people around the world. The more people that know about the club, the bigger the club is. You don't want any friction between somebody that's a fan and wants a hat or a shirt or a kit, and then them wearing it in whatever, the mall, the street, the whatever.
Yeah.
So, Ger, let's just talk about, you talked a little bit about, the front office and some of the things going on. There's been a lot of news that's been breaking this week about the front office. I think maybe there's some mixed feelings, whether it's good or bad. Some of the folks in the front office have been doing really great things, but Greta Steinson, I believe, and some other people have been moving around some pieces. So just talk to the folks about what's been happening this week in the front office.
I will, and I'll be very unprofessional. I need to run for 2 seconds and unlock my front door so Jess can get back into the house. She hasn't got a cake. Give me 1 split second, Alex. I'm sorry about this.
You're totally fine. Yeah, so I don't even know what to say. Ger's wife is locked out of the front door, which happens all the time. It's 5:32 in the United States. Sun has gone down, and we're talking Leeds United stuff with Ger Lynch. There he is. Quick, look as fast as can be. That was like the Flash, Ger.
I accidentally locked the front door on Jess, so I had to let Rich text me going, I know you're on, but if you could, any chance you'd let me in?
Yeah, definitely.
Sorry, you were going to ask a question.
No, just the front office update this week. What have you been hearing?
So there was a bit of a shake up. There was a bit of movement around, and there's been a bit more clarity on some stuff today. So initially was the news last week was that Greta Steinson was leaving his technical director role at Leeds United to take up the global technical director of the 49ers Enterprises portfolio, full stop. And that kind of gave the hint that maybe they were looking at a multi-club model, maybe, and that maybe he needed to be, in that role. They've changed it now. It's a bit more detail today. Jordan Miles has left, and that's the interesting one because no destination as to where he's going, just that he's seeking other opportunities, which is interesting language. It's the best of luck on your future endeavors kind of line that you see in things. So he's gone. And Alex Davies, who was an analyst at the club, then he was the head of the scouting team. He has now moved into head of recruitment. And then this week they've clarified that Steinson's new role as global technical director for 49ers Enterprises still includes Leeds United at the center of that. And any new sporting ventures will all fall under Steinson's role. They said that there's no plan for a multi-club model in the short to medium term, but haven't ruled out one in the longer term. So I think that's a sensible move as well. If you can get a multi-club model and you're the top team in that multi-club model, there's so much benefits to it. Loaning young players out to clubs and around the world to get experience at proper level, not just, League One or whatever else, opens a lot of doors for Leeds. And then the opportunity to bring in players from other countries as well. So it all seems very, very smart, but Steinson's not going anywhere just yet, but he is moving into a new role. Leeds aren't backfilling the technical director role that he had. He'll do some of those duties. Adam Underwood is taking on some additional roles. Nick Hammond is taking on a few additional roles, but Nick Hammond is expected to leave at some point in the near future as well. He's reducing his hours at the club, according to Leeds Live last week. They said that he's reducing his current hours under his consultancy that he has with the club, which is disappointing for me because I think Nick Hammond has been massively important in the transfer windows that Leeds have had in the last year or so, especially the first one after we got relegated. That was massive. So a lot of change, but the fact that Alex Davies has come through Leeds, like he came in initially as a sports analyst. Victor Orta liked him and what he was doing, and Victor Orta put him into the recruitment team, onto the scouting team. He then became the head of that department, and now he's been moved in by the 49ers that moved him into the head of recruitment. So he was working side by side with Steinson and Miles for the last two windows. So he's got a good idea what was going on, and he was apparently very close working with Jordan Miles. So whatever Miles did well or didn't do well, Alex Davies would be very aware of that. So the handover should be straightforward enough, but it's an interesting time of the year to start tweaking your recruitment team. And I think I saw Brighton this week as well. I think they slashed half of their recruitment team as well. And maybe people are relying on algorithms a lot more. Maybe AI is playing a part in this as well. But there's when it comes to judging football and talent, there's nothing that beats the human eye for that. So strange time to be doing it coming into a January window, but it's streamlining, I suppose. A way of looking at it. Maybe they don't need all these people in these senior roles anymore. Maybe the structure has been built now and they can kind of, rely on having a couple of key people and then everybody else in the team working it.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, Brighton, a little bit of a head scratch. They've been fantastic in some of their, I don't know, it's like Moneyball, but for really good, like global football. I mean, Brighton's kind of been in a way. I mean, I'm kind of envious of Brighton, and their ability to get quality players and continue to go. And even after managers and players leave, they just keep performing pretty well in their respective place in the top flight. So, and they continue to be a nuisance to big clubs. So that's an interesting one on Brighton. And so the guy's name is Alex. You said Davies.
Alex Davies, Davies.
All right, Alex Davies. Go ahead and give that person a Google if you're a Leeds United fan, and see what he's all about. And he's the new director of scouting.
He's the new head of recruitment.
Head of recruitment. So that'll be an interesting person to kind of keep your eyes on as decisions will be made right as soon as January, I think, for some of this stuff. Archie Gray, Jack Harrison, both rumored. I mean, Calvin Phillips, but Calvin Phillips was squashed pretty quickly.
Very quickly.
Both rumored to come back. Archie Gray more on a loan. I don't see that happening. Jack Harrison fallen out of favor at Everton.
Yeah.
Do you see him coming back? Ger Lynch, what say you?
I don't see him coming back.
Okay.
Now, I was wrong on Aronson. I didn't think Aronson would come back to Leeds. I don't see him coming back because there's a couple of bits to it. There would need to be a recall clause in the contract for that to even be initiated. Otherwise, both clubs would need to come to an agreement on cancelling the loan and sending him back. It can't happen until January anyway because they can't move outside of a window. He hasn't started well. I think he's made 11 appearances so far this season. No goals, no assists. Harrison's seasons tend to be dictated by how he starts the season and how he finishes the season. If you remember back to when he played with us in the Premier League specifically, he would start the season on fire. Then we talk about England call-ups. Then it would get cold and wet and mucky and Jack would go missing for months. And by the time we came out of that and everyone was starting to complain about Jack Harrison not doing it on the pitch, the nice weather had kicked back in and Jack produced some stuff before the end of the season and all was forgiven for another year. Except this year he hasn't started well. And he hasn't had that kickstart. So he's nothing under his belt coming into the wetter months of the year. And there's a bit of pressure on him from the fans. They're not overly happy with him. There's talk about this being cancelled and sent back. I don't know what the financial situation is around this. As far as I know, they weren't paying his wages this time, but I could be wrong on that. I probably am wrong on that one. So I don't see the benefit in sending him back. John Dyche will still need bodies in his team, and they're not exactly in the position to go and sign players because they've got no money. So from that perspective, no. From a Leeds perspective, does he get into this team? Where would he fit? When all four wingers or Leeds are available, I would still like to see Brendan Aronson more as a winger, less as a 10. I'd like to see him on the right-hand side a bit more. I just don't see where Jack Harrison fits in. I don't see how he gets into this team. And then Jack has always been poor with media work. I mean, remember when he was at Leeds and he was asked about going to Newcastle and he said, well, we have to wait and see. I'm like, no, Jack, the answer is I'm not leaving the club. You know, you don't tell your fans in a pre-season interview that there's a possibility you might consider a move to Newcastle while you're still at the club. Like, don't do that. But he always kind of tends to just not be the sharpest with media work. Like, he tends to walk into situations and maybe tries to give an honest answer, but it's not always the smartest answer, if that makes sense. He hasn't said particularly nice things about Leeds last year. He talked about being away from the club and not probably going back and the relationship with the fan base. His mother was caught on camera last year when an Everton fan shouted at him, don't go back to Leeds. And she said, no, in a way. I would find it very hard for him to come back in there. It would be a hell of a redemption arc if he was to do it. It would be a massive bridge to be built between the fan base. He's 2 years away. There will always be the side of people who say, I don't care about anything as long as he comes in and plays well. And those people have a very easy life. The people that are only happy with 3 points and only happy when, don't care about anything else. It's a very easy life. But the majority of people do care. Like, they will want a relationship with the player. They will want the player. And Leeds fans predominantly want players who want to be here. And Jack Harrison's proved over the last couple of years he doesn't want to be a Leeds player. In fact, I don't think Jack Harrison really cares who he plays for as long as he's playing Premier League football. I think that's he's one of those players who's just, I'm a footballer and I'm here to make money and doing that. And that's completely acceptable from a player perspective. So no, I don't think he comes back. And on the Archie Gray one, I think it's a nonsense story because he's playing for Spurs. Why would Spurs let him come back?
Yeah,
he comes off
he's starting to play.
He's played in he started all their European games. He's played 90 minutes in nearly all of them, playing as a centre back in some and doing very well there. He's come off the bench 5 times in the Premier League this season. So they're using him.
And trust
He's 18. So he's 18 years of age and just giving him the amount of time you would expect an 18-year-old to get in the Premier League. And especially a team that's considered a top 6, top 8 side. He's got a lot of competition there. Spurs' problems aren't Archie Gray. Spurs' problems are they replaced Harry Kane with Dominic Solanke and they brought in Brennan Johnson instead of a top 6 winger. Brennan Johnson's going to be great, but he's not consistent enough right now. So they made their own problems. It's not Archie. There's no way Archie goes back to Leeds. In fact, I'd be shocked if Archie leaves Spurs in January at all, unless Ange is gone and the next person who comes in doesn't really see the value in him, sends him out. But I think it's an easy link It's a lazy link, and I think it's Ryan Kent, Lewis O'Brien, Calvin Phillips,
Yeah.
Archie Gray.
23 of you in the building, so at least 23 likes. We're gonna go for 100 likes on this video. Andy says that I missed the first 28 minutes. Just go ahead and drag that cursor back to the beginning and catch up with us. Ger Lynch is in the building, everyone. Like, if you have a question for Ger Lynch, this is the man that probably has the most pulse on everything Leeds United, the front office, what's going on. If it's whispered, Ger Lynch hears about it. Led Zepp says, do you think the San Francisco 49ers are looking to construct an RB-style football stable? What do you think, Ger?
Yeah, I think the comments are really interesting. The fact that it was alluded to in the Steinson move. Like, what does Greta Steinson really have to do in a 49ers global technical role, considering it's just the 49ers and Leeds United right now? And he's not going to be that proficient in American football. So, and I'm sure there's a technical director as part of the 49ers already. So it doesn't make sense unless there's a plan for more there. Now, I know they wanted to look after other things like sporting technologies, and they want to look at advancing the equipment and everything that Leeds use behind the scenes to really modernize the club, which is brilliant. But I do think there's something else there. And then in the clarity of the stuff this week, they said that there was nothing in the plans for the short and medium term. Actually, I can't get the exact quote. If I can find the exact quote that I wrote down, but it was basically along those lines of, look, there's nothing in the short or medium term. There we go there. A multi-club model would, regards to a possible multi-club model, 49ers insist that any new footballing projects that arise would fall under Steinson's remit, but there are no concrete plans besides Leeds United from the short or medium term. Not the long term, not mentioned at all. So that would suggest to me that they're like, well, yeah, but not right now. Leeds is the most important thing, but the longer term, I think it would make sense. And that's when it gets really interesting, because Red Bull have their own multi-club model. And if the 49ers go and form their own multi-club model, how does that work? Or does it have any impact at all? And maybe it eases the minds of those people who are worried about 49ers taking over Leeds fully. Red Bull taking over Leeds fully. The 49ers are doing their own thing as well. So it's an interesting piece. Leeds would need to get back to the Premier League before this would have any credibility as a multi-club model. Like, there's no point in being the head of a multi-club model in the second tier of English football. You need to be in the top tier. So yeah, I think it's interesting. I think there's definitely probably something in that. Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, they're business owners, so they want to continue to make a profit, and they'll manipulate business models to get that done. Here, one thing I wanted to talk to you about, and it's been months, and I just am like, sometimes this thought will just pop in my head. I'm like, I gotta talk to Ger about this, because I just reflect on Ger. Your brother is a big Villa fan.
He is.
Yeah.
God bless him.
He is. We were neck and neck with Villa. We had Jesse Marsh. They had
Steven
Gerrard. Both managers that
awful.
Shouldn't have been there. And we sacked our manager. They've sacked their manager. And we wound up trying to go with, we know. The forehead, the Scoobs and
Sam Allardyce and Javi Gracia.
And then they spent the money on a manager, on
Unai
Emery, who we
Leeds were linked at the exact same time.
with, but was too expensive, right? And they thought, they couldn't invest in him. And Villa has gone into the Champions League, and Leeds United have taken a step back.
Yeah.
And it's just it's a kind of a story of what could have been in many ways, because similar size clubs, right? I mean, both giants of the English game and similar storied clubs. But yeah, I don't know. What's your take on that? What does your brother say? And what do you think? Is he just rubbing it in your face or what?
No.
Okay.
And no, my brother's a pretty quiet guy. My brother is in his own way. When we get on our own, he'll have the odd dig, but he likes to have educated conversations on football and so do I.
good.
Sometimes it gets heated between us, but not so much as we've gotten older. It's less and less. When we were younger, we'd kill each other over football, but as we've gotten older, it's less so. But he's very happy with it. He thinks they've got a good manager. They've got a good ownership. They've got an owner with a few quid who's not afraid to spend it. They have broken the model of being a top 4 club, and then I suppose threw the PSR thing into the air at the same time by going, well, what do you mean we've just qualified for the Champions League and now we've got to sell 2 of our best players just to level ourselves off what the rules say we should do, which was crazy. But they've managed to go and bring players in to replace those players of a similar caliber, and in some cases, like Rodgers is doing phenomenal there. So he's very happy with what they're doing. He does. I think he possibly said it before. It could have been us. Or we were very, very close to each other at that point. We're both kind of hanging above the relegation zone. Would we fall back into the Championship? Would we not? And Leeds went for the cheap option initially, and then they spent 3 million quid on Sam Allardyce for 3 games, which was nuts. So had they spent that money earlier on Unai Emery, maybe they wouldn't be in this position. But it's also the timings of when they came in. I think Emery came in earlier and had more time. But people accuse the 49ers of doing things on the cheap. Victor Orton, Radrizzani very much tried to stay in the Premier League on the cheap, and it backfired, and unfortunately it caused more problems in the long run. Speculate to accumulate, Alex. That's always been the business model, hasn't it? If you want to do better, hire better, spend the money and get better people in, and that small amount of change they scrimped on comparative to the amount of money they lost by being relegated. And if you think about it from a Radrizzani perspective, he lost half the value of the club on that relegation. So he had a £400 million buyout to the 49ers that dropped to 250 million when we got relegated. So he lost 200 million quid, better part of, with that relegation by not spending a few quid on getting Emery. And so, yeah, it's you do look at them with a little bit of envy now and go, that could have been us. Why wasn't that us? Why is it never us? It's always somebody else. But I'd argue a case, and my brother will massively disagree with me on this, but I would say arguably Leeds is potentially a bigger club than Aston Villa. Aston Villa, same reason, sure. I'm a bitter man right there with you, Sean. I do like Villa. I do, except for John McGinn. But me and my brother talk about him an awful lot. He hates Patrick Bamford. I can't stand John McGinn. We have our own reasons. But Leeds is a single city club in a very big city. Birmingham, Aston Villa, not just in the Birmingham region, but the slight areas around it, has a lot of big clubs. West Brom, Wolverhampton Wanderers, now Black Country, and other parts of Birmingham. But there's a lot of clubs in Birmingham. So, and it's a big city as well, but Leeds arguably could have as a monopoly in its city and should be a massive club and is a big club. Should be, and I think will be a huge, huge, huge club in the future. I saw Sean Healy's comment there as well. I was waiting on that. So, yeah, I think Leeds could be a bigger club, but we haven't had the setup behind the scenes professionally for a very, very, very long time. Like, I won't slate Rads and Victor. They did enough to get us back to where they did. They brought us in Bielsa. They gave us some very good years. Didn't build the stuff behind the scenes well enough to sustain it. I think we'll get that from the 49ers now. I think if we do get back up the next time, if we can get up this year's massively important from that perspective. If we don't go up this year, the summer next year could be a fire sale. So we need to get out of the division this year, and then we start to see all the work with the Fanatics stuff and the Adidas deal and the stadium improvements and the Red Bull scouting network. All that kind of stuff starts to come into its own when we get to the Premier League, and the financial clout that the 49ers have. They can actually start spending some money in the Premier League. So it's important that we get there for those reasons. But everything else off the pitch right now suggests that if Leeds do get back to the Premier League, on and off the pitch, they could be a very big side for the next couple of years. But we have to get there. And then the appointments are going to be keen. Like, does Daniel Farke get the time in the Premier League? Does he get money? Did they go somewhere else with that direction? Or did they give him a year and then see what happens? Or he could be a huge success there. So there's a lot of question marks after this summer, but I think when you get into next year, I think a lot of decisions will be made a lot more brutally than they are currently. I think a lot of things will be made a lot faster and sharper because they have to be in the Premier League.
Yeah, I think there's a ton to build on in the Premier League. The other things that where I'm kind of like just scratching my head on, and now that we're in the international break, we can just take a breath and just think about things and stuff like that. But I'm always like, Forest. I'm like how are they fifth? And they've got obviously Chris Wood leading the line. I'm going, what the hell is going on?
What a season!
Yeah, what a season! And obviously we were neck and them for the at the scrap for them with them. And then obviously Bournemouth, who wound up getting a manager that we were looking at,
We
and
also wanted, yeah, doing
and
very well.
and, and then Liverpool with Slot. Slot is now taking the Premier League by storm. Obviously, I don't know,
Yep.
who knows, we wouldn't have the talent here at Leeds United, but yeah, it's just going, what a strange, when you looked at it, Victor Orta was pretty good at some evaluations, but go
Right.
ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say, in terms of the managers he was lining up to replace Bielsa, nailed it. Like that's like Emre, Slot, Areola.
Areola. Yeah, that was the one. Yep. And
Great work.
is establishing Bournemouth.
And playing good football with Bournemouth as well. Not the Bielsa football, but it's very good football and it's pragmatic at times and it has the balance between attack and defense. And it's, it's positive when it needs to be positive and it can be negative when it needs to be negative. It's horses for courses and he's doing very, very well. So Victor clearly knew the kind of caliber of these guys, what they would be. And especially in Areola and Slot's case in this division. It's a shame he didn't have the same view of players, and he wasn't as. I mean, he had a few hits as players, some big hits as a player, but not all the signs for hits. But it's interesting how he seemed to have gotten the managers he wanted lined up, bang on what we should have gone for, but not the players. And then Rads didn't want the managers, and didn't want to spend the money on them, so we didn't, and we went Scoobs. It was fine. I think Scoobs will do really, really well, and then Javi Gracia, who I just think didn't get enough time, and then you end up with Sam Allardyce, which was just a shot in the dark and a crazy decision to make in the first place. It still upsets me that man was ever in the dugout in charge of Leeds United and gets to talk about being a Leeds United manager because he shouldn't have been anywhere near the club, ever.
I agree. Let's transition to present day. Led Zepp's been great on transitions. I'd like to ask you both, do you think Leeds United are the best team in the championship?
I know what he's doing. That winky face, I know exactly what that's about. All
right, what do you think that's about? What do you think?
I made a comment on Just Joe's show last week.
Oh.
And I will clarify it again. Leeds United are not the best team in this league, right? Leeds United, the club, the name, right?
Okay.
That doesn't mean Leeds don't have the best squad in the league. They are different things. If you look at the away table this year, Leeds are fifth. If you look at the home table this year, Leeds are joint top. If you look at the current table all in, Leeds are third. You're not the best side in the league. You can have the most possession in the league all you want. You can have the most passes completed all you want. And you can have the most tackles in the league completed all you want. They are all passive stats. None of them lead it. Leeds are top of the shots bracket, but they're not top of the goals. So there's gaps there. But this Leeds, the squad that's there and the ability of the players within the squad is definitely one of, if not the best squad of players in the division. And I think from depth perspective as well, we lost two of our first choice wingers this year and we're able to replace them with two very, very good wingers in their own right straight away. So they're a different thing. Leeds United and the squad, the club is third in the league. The best team in the league is top. After 15 games, 14 games, right now Leeds are the third best side in the division. Just by the league table.
Yeah.
From a squad perspective, this Leeds team has levels to it. This team has gears to it. I don't think we've seen the best of this team yet. I think there's far more to come with this team. And I think if they are let off the leash a little bit more, if they are allowed to speed the game tempo up just a little bit more, I think this Leeds team could start smashing clubs. I really, really think the potential is there. I like our squad. I like our players. They're a hard-working group of players. They work together. They're not relying on individual moments. They're relying on each other as a group of players. And I really, really, really like this. But you kind of have to separate the two. And if you want to say, well, when I say is Leeds the best team in the league, do I mean the squad? Well, then yeah. But if you mean as a team, as a club, you're not, because you're not top of the division. At the end of the year, you can't say you're the best team in the league if you're fourth, because you're not. You won't be getting promoted. So, but that doesn't mean you can't look at your squad and go, that's the best squad in the league and it should have got promoted. It should have got automatic promotion. Should have gone and won the league. And I think that this Leeds squad is the best squad in the league. But right now, they've not produced enough to be the best team in the league based on the league table. I think they can get there. And I think this run now without internationals, and especially the games that are coming up after this break, Leeds should now be in the position to push right on and get themselves front and centre, to get into that top two positions, to start opening a gap. And I think they're really, really capable of doing it. They're very capable. I didn't get a chance to make this point the other night, but they're very, very, very capable of doing that. They just need a little bit more for me. There's just maybe it's a lack of a creative number 10, but I think Brendan's been doing really well in there. I wouldn't criticize him. I just think there's little bits that with Leeds that could be tweaked a little bit better. I think if they're just a bit faster with the pass and then transition from back to front, low blocks, you get past them by getting around the back of them quickly. So when the ball goes dead, move it fast, get in around the back, get the ball into space, get Dan James, Manor Solomon, Willie Nonto, Larry Ramzani, get them running into space and not running into players. And that all comes from speed of transition. And Leeds can do that really, really well. We've seen it against Plymouth in the first half. We've seen it against Watford. Saw it against Norwich in the playoff last year. It's there. Whether they're let off the leash enough to go and do it. And the point that I make on that is Daniel Farke talked about Gilavogi coming on against QPR, and he said that he was coming on to do Claude Makelele, and he did Zinedine Zidane. He wants to talk to him about that because he doesn't want him to overdo things. He was sent on with the remit of kill the game. And that was 1-0, but he didn't. He kept pushing forward. We got a second, which is brilliant. We won the game more comfortably. Everyone was a lot happier 2-0. But Daniel Farke still said it in his press conference afterwards of, I'm going to talk. I will talk to him about that. And you're like, that's the bit that kind of worries people of going, he was very good and we got a second goal. That seems to be a positive for me, but he wasn't overly happy with it. So there's just that little bit of risk averseness that Daniel Farke has. Right. Just eased it a little bit and trusted them a tiny bit more. And that's all I think it is. It's fractions. I think they could absolutely steamroll the teams. But thank you.
Well, this is what that question in Winky Face. That's what happens when I am completely offline and I'm not following things for a week. I've been so busy, so I didn't know that it was a question to another. Obviously, Joe's is a great content creator. Cheers to Joe for all that you do for the community. But yeah, that's okay. Football's a game of opinions. Two men are allowed to have two different opinions. As far as me, what do I feel? Are we the best team in the championship? I think, Ger, that's kind of like your managerial hat. Like I think sometimes I remember there was a famous coach here in America that would always say, who's the top of a reporter would be like, what's the best side or what's the best team in this? And he's like, who's ahead of the standings? And then it would be like, next question. So
the best tactics, Alex, then it comes down to, we play better football, but
who has the most talent?
Question, is it?
I mean, if you're saying the question is who has the most talent, Leeds United probably on paper has the best squad in the division.
Yeah.
Will that talent be realized? Is probably the next thought in that question, and I would say yes. And my hypothesis so far, Ger, has been that the defense, the back line, the back four will actually lead this side to a championship. What the other team could not. Not that we had a terrible back line last year, but the partnership of Rodon and Pascal, which was there, but unfortunately Pascal got injured. If it remains healthy, and then obviously you have the two in front of them that are doing a wonderful job right now. But that coupled with, I think, the fullbacks, playing with out-and-out fullbacks that do overlaps, underlaps, traditional, and know how to do that and put in crosses, which we love Archie. I mean, his ceiling is incredible. We know he's going to probably
He's not a fullback, though.
He's not a fullback and doesn't see the game as a fullback sometimes. And so I really think the out-and-out fullbacks of Firpo and Jaden Bogle are going to possibly lead this team to a championship as well. So that's how I kind of look at it. And I think the front four has weakened, but I think it will still be a very potent front four, in the future. So that's my hypothesis. I think we're both bullish and thinking that Leeds will be in the automatic promotion spots when it's all pencils down.
Alex, I think that I watched your podcast last week and I made the exact same
kind of you.
Well, I watch it most times, but I picked up that line that you said. I used it in my podcast during the week as well, and I quoted you on it where I said the defense will get Leeds United promoted this year, and I completely agree with you because if you're not conceding goals, you're guaranteed a point, guaranteed. So if you keep a 0, at minimum is 1 point, and I think this team is enough to be able to nick 3 points enough times this season to get enough points to go up automatically. So, but I think it's a really, really good point. The side has changed But because of what we've got right now, we're not defending as much, but we're definitely not as weak on the counter-attack as we were last season. We weren't getting caught as much. And the only goals that Leeds really tend to concede this year are mistakes by Leeds. So if we cut out the mistakes, you should be infallible. Like, you should be able to go the rest of the year without conceding too many goals. So it's a massive part of what we do, but I still think there's enough talent in that front four to push Leeds. I still think it's probably the best front four. Arguably, we have a striker that doesn't necessarily fit the system, where maybe other teams have strikers that fit perfectly, but there's still more than enough in this team to get up automatically. This is not as strong a league as it was last year.
Yeah. And 40 of you in the building, go ahead and smash the like. 42 of you, so 42 likes at a minimum. We're going for 100 likes for the stream. The Nib says we need to offload Darlow, Carnes, Christensen, Vober, Harrison, and Perkins ASAP. Think of how relieved of a squad that would be and the money we'd save. What do you say to the Nib?
Can I see the list of names again?
Sure.
I don't miss anyone. You're not offloading Darlow because he's your number 2, and that's all he needs to be right now. And he's an experienced goalkeeper that's probably on very little money, that's happy to sit on the bench. So you're not giving him. Alex Cairns is there for a very one clear reason. He ticks the box of a locally grown player, and Leeds have to have X amount of locally grown players on their bench. If Sam Byram is injured, Leeds don't. Alex Cairns has to play on the bench then. So that's why Alex Cairns, realistically, that's why he was brought back. He's been classed as a homegrown player, and he knows he's not going to play. So he's happy to be third choice, hometown club. Christensen, there's constant rumours going on around a renegotiation of the buyout clause, which just seems to be, I don't know why Leeds organise all these buyout clauses and these loan deals, because every single club comes back and, well, we want that player, but we don't want to give you the money we negotiated for him. So there's a €15 million buyout in his deal. If they want to make it permanent, they want to negotiate it down to 10. I'd bite your hand off if it was 10. Completely agree. Christensen needs to be gone.
Amen.
He might go in January. That could happen. Verber won't be going anywhere this year. If you get back to the Premier League, it's probably worth having in your squad. I get the sentiment around them as well. I would agree with that. But I think if you look at it from just from a footballing perspective, he's an Austrian international. He's played at the highest level in games. He could be a good squad player to have in the Premier League. Harrison, 100% agree with. If you can get the money for him, right now it looks like nobody has it and nobody's willing to pay it. And Sonny Perkins has just come into form late in Orient, scoring 3 goals in his last 3 games. So he's just starting to find his form there. But he's out of contract at the end of the season, so Nib, he will be gone anyway at the end of the year. So he'll go on a free transfer. So yeah. Of those 2 goalkeepers, I wouldn't lose any sleep about them taking. It's not your money they're taking up, sitting on the bench. I wouldn't worry about it. I wouldn't lose any sleep over it. Next season, the conversation around a goalkeeper is a bigger conversation to have. But the other ones, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, Vober, I have a little mixed feelings about, not because of all the drama that happened with him and being a snake and all that. It's more of like, he had an opportunity a couple times and then he's been injured, and now he's I think there was, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, Jer, like rumors of possible surgery. He was injured. That's the part but all of a sudden an injury to one of the people in the back line, and Vober becomes kind of important. And
should still be very, very good at this level. I know he wasn't great against Middlesbrough. He'd just come back and he hadn't had a preseason, but I think once he's at least fit, if you need to play, especially when it comes into the FA Cup game, 3rd round games at Christmas, we don't want to be just putting Stroke and Roll on out there every single game. You've got an opportunity to stick Vober in there, at least freshen it up a little bit. And he can do a job at this level. And if nothing else, view it as us using him right now, where he might have used us before in the Premier League. We're using him now. And then when we get there, see what happens.
Just came through a couple of minutes ago. Oh, no, I lost it. But Mateo Joseph, I think, played an hour in Spain's 0-0 draw against England, the U21s. So it's good to see. I mean, I don't know how to say this, but positively, maybe a lot of Leeds internationals are being gently used. Al Tanaka didn't make an appearance. Brendan Aronson, unfortunately, has flu-like symptoms and didn't play yesterday, might not play in the
Monday's game.
Monday's game, home and away with Jamaica. So it's good some international players are getting gently used as we will need them for the season. Geez, Jer, I don't know. My brain is kind of blank now. I don't know what else to say. I'm just scrolling the comments to see if there's anything else. I mean, I think I fancy us to get promoted this season. We talked about it at the beginning of the season. There's been some hiccups. Ruter got, I think, poached when we like first talked about HMS pissing the league, but yeah, I mean, I think we still have more than enough. Oh, do you think that there's any business that needs to be done in January?
Yeah, I would like Leeds to go and get number 9. And again, it's not criticizing the ones that we've got, but I think there is a different profile needed in that position. If they can get a striker to fit the Daniel Farke model perfectly, which might be tricky, but that's one that they should probably look at. A 10, a creative 10, because we have the hard work. And I feel sorry. Brendan Aaronson's talked about this during the week about he doesn't like just being called a hard working number 10. Like he's technically very good, and he's technically a very good player. But I think you're looking for a more flair player in that number 10 position. But I don't think that replaces Brendan. I think it's kind of a, again, horses for courses in certain games. And a centre back just to cover, just to have another body back there. And I think outside of that, they're probably okay. I don't think they need a whole lot left. People will talk about changing the goalkeeper. That's not going to happen. So there's no point in having the conversation. It might happen in the summer, but it won't happen until then. So right now, he hasn't had a save to make in 3 games. So keep it at that, and he won't concede any more goals. So yeah, I think just maybe a 9, maybe a 10, maybe a centre back. But I wouldn't be at all surprised if Leeds did nothing.
Yeah, there's something about the Leeds United, the San Francisco 49ers, just the fact that there's a lot riding. We always talk about it's a big club, but there's just a lot riding on Leeds United getting promoted this season. If I were to answer that question, I would say I agree with you on the center back. A number 9 finisher would always be fantastic. Other sides will strengthen too, so
of course
you can't stay pat, and I don't think the 49ers will either. And a number 10, and it's the hardest position I think in the world to recruit for. But if there can be a number 10 that we can take in on a permanent or a loan basis with obviously an opportunity for that number 10 to be promoted into the biggest league in the world, why not come in and take a chance on them? So continue the goals and assists right. Go ahead.
I think Sean Healy's right there as well. You won't get number 10 in the championship that we're looking for. I think everyone, I see it every single day in my comments. We're missing a Pablo. 99.9% of all clubs around the world are missing a Pablo. That's why he's rare. Same with a Rafinha. Well, you need to replace him. You can't. They're not replaceable. That's why they're so rare. That's why they're loved. But I agree with Sean. If Leeds go up, you probably get a good 10. If Leeds stay down, people are asking for Buendia. The player himself has said he doesn't want to go to the championship, and Aston Villa have said they're not letting him go out on loan. They want to use him. So you're not getting Buendia either. So it's not just a case of, well, we need to go and get 10 and 9. It's, well, what's available? What can we get? And does it make us any better than we currently are? Because if it doesn't, is there any point in doing it? But to your point, others will strengthen in January. And if Leeds don't make some smart moves in January, they could be left behind. And we saw, had we brought Kiefer Moore in, had we brought another body in maybe towards the back end of last season, I thought we did enough. I thought we had enough going to the end of last season, but we clearly didn't in the end. So you don't want to be left behind by your promotion rivals bringing in some players. And Sheffield United are on the verge of their takeover going through, so they'll come into January with a few quid in the bank as well to actually go and sign some players. So Leeds need to be smart.
Lee, who's a big fan of my channel, always getting stuck in, always says number 9. He said number 9 a couple times in the comments. He sees it as an important position to continue to finish the dinner, get the goal at the end of the play, the final pass, the final ball. There's some comments, and then maybe we'll leave it there. But about Farke's continuing his ride in the Premier League, right? I think he gets if we get promoted, we're thinking we will. It's his, but I think the 49ers will definitely have him on a short leash, like as it always is in the Premier League. I think, I mean that first month will be heavily evaluated. I think he's got.
That's a problem. That's been a problem for Farke. If you look at Farke's history, his teams don't start the season quickly. It takes 10 games. If he does that in the Premier League, you're done. You're toast before you ever get going. So a fast start's needed. Leeds didn't start fast this year. Didn't start fast last year. Farke didn't start fast when he was at Norwich or Gladbach. So a change would be needed there. He definitely gets the start of the Premier League season because they've said they wanted to give him the firepower that he didn't get at Norwich to go and prove himself as a Premier League manager. And there's no way he took this job without without him saying to them, if we go up, I want that job and I want to be backed. So it's how he spends his money. The late signings is a problem for Leeds as well, leaving all your business till the last week of the window because the season's already started, and then we're making excuses around, well, we only got our players in late and we have to wait till the end of August to see where we are. If you do that in the Premier League, you're miles behind everyone already and you're in big, big trouble. So there will be a change of strategy needed if you do go back to the Premier League. And if he's to be successful there.
Yeah, it's going to take some big, big, big time signings, I think, to really get Farke backed. I think it's going to take, I think
whole new spine, Alex.
Yeah.
Straight in the middle of the team. Everyone.
Yeah. Strong spine. And I think when Norwich played well in the Premier League, they were excellent on the break. And they had a really good operator right in Buendia. But I did enjoy the way his teams broke on the counter against Norwich with Norwich, and then it's tough. It's just a tough league. Teams will figure you out, and teams have the personnel and the depth to find out your weaknesses and play to them. So it
goes both ways though, Alex, and that's it. People will say that, and I've seen a lot of people in the recent weeks say, well, it's not our fault. Teams come up and set up with a low block and set up to draw. I go, yes, that's a new tactic. Manager comes to club with tactic to get a result. That's the story.
Yeah.
Other manager also needs to have a tactic to get a result and win the game. So it's not as easy for people to say, well, if opposition weren't playing low blocks against every week, Pep Guardiola has to play against a low block every single week. You've got to find ways to win. And a good manager looks at that and go, great, low blocks. Lads, we're going to work on breaking down low blocks in training. That's all we're going to do. We're going to keep working on it until we get good at it. Same with Joel Pirou. When Daniel Farke says Joel Pirou can't press, make him press. He's 24 years of age. Come on, coach him. Make him better. He's 24. Don't give up on the guy. Make him better. So there's two sides to it, and he needs to figure that part out, because if that is the Achilles heel, when you're in the Premier League, we're going to be a smaller fish going into that league in the first year, and we're going to be on the back foot an awful lot more. So he's going to have to figure out other ways to win games when he doesn't have as much possession as well. So there's a lot to be done there. And if you look at how he played with the counterattacks with Norwich, we don't really see that as much with us this year. Last year maybe, but the players aren't the same players. And he had Buendia and Pukki and Cantwell, who are all doing very, very well from. He doesn't have that really with us.
One thing I'll say, and then we'll get out of there. But one thing I'll say, and please smash the like the smash, lightly graze the like, whatever you need to do. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. I sound like an infomercial, but I appreciate all of you. Yeah. One thing I'll say about the Millwall game, right? Because that was the one game that I think we got the 1-0 loss against them at the Den, and it was very upsetting. We do have to have the mindset that we're going to get a result or win every game if we're going to get promoted. So, but Millwall beat Burnley the week before, and I know Burnley is not at the levels that we are, but Burnley is a promotion rival. Burnley is one of the top 3 to 4 sides on the team. So like three or 4 days before, they played Burnley 1-0. Similar tactics, like, it's not like, I don't know, they went from QPR to Leeds. They went from Burnley to Leeds, which in a game that I'm looking at right now, Burnley had 66% possession, Millwall had 34%. So it's really almost a very similar or broadly similar tactical game to Leeds United. So they just had success against Burnley. They come into against Leeds United. They have the exact same, very similar game plan and pull off another 1-0, this time at home down in London. I think we had 70% possession or something like that. And they had, and so they were a defensive that week, and leading up to the Burnley game, they were working on being compact, low block, defensive, working as a unit, defending. And so, anyways, I just thought that game against Millwall was difficult for Farka to
Yeah.
in any circumstance. You could have
Yeah.
any players. They were a really good defensive unit. I did think, I thought Millwall did a good job there.
Yeah.
But you always say you put in a low block because it's difficult to score against a low block, and that's what
Who's the
happens.
best? Who's the best team in the league, Alex?
Yeah,
If you're the best team in the league, you got to find a way to win games.
you got to find a way.
And it's not okay to come away and go, well, Burnley didn't win the game. But you're not judging your standards on Burnley. You're judging your standards on you, and you're
Yeah.
not Burnley. And saying, well, Burnley didn't get a result there is an excuse. That's an excuse.
Yeah.
Well, Burnley didn't do it. Well, we're not Burnley. We don't have the same players. We don't have the same style. Nobody was surprised at how Millwall played against Leeds. Nobody. Everybody knew low block, be physical, and they will try and get crosses into the box to Jake Cooper. Don't give free kicks away in wide areas. A minute and a half into the game, Leeds give a free kick away in a wide area near their box. First ball into the box, Jake Cooper wins the header. And for the rest of it took Leeds 60 minutes before Leeds then decided, actually, the defensive line's going to play 10, 15 yards higher, so they can't cross the ball into the box. It has to go to the edge of the box, and at least we can defend it there. So nobody was surprised. Everyone that did a review, everyone that did a preview, everyone said the same thing. Limit their set pieces, limit their crosses into the box. Don't let Jake Cooper have a header on the ball. And at one point, Willie Nanto was marking Jake Cooper. You're like, really? Really? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, and you're surprised that he's winning the headers, And then the goal comes from a set piece that Leeds just weren't set up for. Like, you can't. I don't blame the centre backs because they're running backwards. And when you're trying to jump, when you run backwards, you've less momentum. You can't get off the ground. Versus a 6'7" player coming onto the ball, jumping forward at pace with all the momentum, is always going to win the header. And then no one's marking the guy that scores the goal, and you're like, that's your mistake. That's a problem. That could have been eradicated easily by marking properly, being set up for this, or not giving away the free kick in the first place. And that was the mistake. And it seemed to me that everybody knew what Millwall were going to do, but Daniel Farke was the only one that was surprised by how well they played after the game. But their last 5 games have been 1-0 wins. All of them have been 1-0, 1-0, 1-0, 1-0. So they have a style, they have a setup, and it's not okay to just go, well, that's how they play. And well, look to beat everybody else 1-0 as well. Okay, when that's that case, then we're going to write off games against them. So next time we play Millwall, we write that game off. Don't worry about it. It's a 1-0 loss. We move on to the next game. It's not good enough. You can't come out and say that. You've got to come out and go, yeah, they had a tactic. They are set up. Fair play to them. But we didn't create enough chances. We weren't clinical enough for the chances we did create. We didn't move the ball quick enough. We didn't get around the back of them. Someone's asked about how do you bypass the low block? Speed. When Millwall attack and you win the ball, you go wide and high as quick as you can. And they don't have time to drop in and get their shape. If you tippy-tappy around the back, they drop in and get their shape. So there's ways around it. I'm oversimplifying it. It's much more complicated than that. But there's ways around it, and they should be spending part of their week every week working on what the opposition do. Daniel Farke has talked about having his match preparation squad, which I assume means a team of reserves that are lined up to play how the opposition are going to play, so you can work against it. So then you've got to find other ways to score, whether it's a long shot, whether it's a free kick, and there's lots of ways to score goals. We tend to limit ourselves to walking the ball into the back of the net. So, look, there's ways around it. Millwall are Millwall. They'll always play the way Millwall play. Nobody should be surprised at that, and we've got to find better ways of winning games, and that's all I'd say about that.
One thing that just always just does me in is our set piece delivery and goals and corner. Like it's so hard, and it was like this under Bielsa, but we just are not lethal in those moments. It doesn't look like we're really going to score from those moments of a free kick around the box or a corner. It's just, I'm actually looking at the Millwall stats right now. 12 corners we had. They had 2, and we could not get a goal from those 12 corners. It's just unbelievable. But I don't know. What do you think, Jared? Is anything on the corners besides work on them?
I think the delivery's not bad right now. Outside of the odd one from Joe Rothwell, I think he's putting some balls in some fantastic areas in the box, but no one's attacking the ball. Like, no one's getting on the end of them. Like, he put in some fizzers last week against QPR, and nobody was getting on it. I mean, there was balls bouncing in the 6-yard area across the box from crosses that he was putting in, and nobody was getting on the end of them. And he's starting to get stick from people now saying he can't cross the ball. And I was like, well, it's like passing. Like I say to players, and when I was coaching players, you have someone to pass the ball, and then they complain to the player that they were passing to wasn't where he was supposed to be, or someone that complained the pass was crap. And you're going, well, it's a two-way streak. It has to be good on both ways. Like there has to be communication there. Person passing the ball's got to have the right weight behind the pass and know where it's going. The person receiving it's got to communicate where he's going and make sure he's available to receive and make sure he's in the right area. So it's a two-way streak. It's never just one. Same with corners and set pieces. Person putting the ball in is putting it into an area that you would assume they've worked on or set piece that they've practiced. They've got to get in those areas then when he is. And if the ball's bouncing across the 6-yard line and no one's tapping it in, for me, the problem is with those attacking the ball, not the person delivering the ball. I think Rotwell's crossing is fine. We don't win enough free kicks around the edge of the box to see what he can do there. We just don't. We get maybe 1 or 2 free kicks in a game, and they're usually too far out. But if we got more free kicks around the edge, we might see what he's capable of with a free kick. But I don't have a massive problem with his delivery from set pieces. I have a problem with Leeds' ability to get on the end of them. And then when they do, I love Joe Rodon, probably one of my favorite players in the squad right now. But he's the softest head in the world when it comes to scoring a ball. When it comes across and it hits him on the head, it usually just drops dead. And you're like, and he's very surprised he hasn't scored and nobody else is. But it's like you've got to meet that and go through the ball. You know, Pascal's very good at doing it, but he can't be the only one in there. I think Gilavogi will add something there if he's allowed into the box. He will allow something. He will add some stuff there as well. So yeah, for me, it's more getting on the end of them than the delivery. Last year, the delivery was crap. Got to the front post every single time, never beat the first man. This year, it's much improved, but they're not getting on the end of them, and they need to work on that.
Yeah, interesting evaluation there. I agree with you that they're not getting to it. Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully, it continues to be touched on and worked on. So after the international break, Sunday, November 24th, we are playing Swansea, and then Wednesday, Luton Town. After that, November 30th, Blackburn Rovers. And then a week from that, Derby County, December 7th. Yeah. So some winnable games, it looks like, to start to go on a run. Obviously, the cold, rainy night at Stoke will be December 26th, Boxing Day. You got to get a win there. So
exercise some demons.
Exercise some demons. Smash the like, smash. My name is Alex Simon. His name is Ger Lynch. Ger Lynch on Twitter, as well as Leeds United the View on YouTube. Anything else, Ger, that you're promoting?
I did a video with Andrew Stats Dalton for the last international break that went out as a members only piece of content. That's going live on the channel in the morning for everybody. Not just members. It'll be free to everybody now. And it's on Howard Wilkinson's time with the club.
Awesome. Support Ger, support Leeds United the View, and thanks so much for tuning in. I will see you guys next time. Enjoy the international break as much as you can. Bye.